This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Reading by Robin Cotter, Toronto, Ontario, March 2007. Good Things to Eat, as Suggested by Rufus Estes. Section 7. Lunch Dishes. Bread with cream cheese filling. For this use, the steamed Boston brown bread and a potato loaf of white. Take the crust from the white loaf using a sharp knife. Then, instead of cutting crosswise, cut in thin, lengthwise pieces. Treat the brown loaf in the same way. Butter a slice of the white bread on one side, and do the same with a brown slice. Put the two buttered sides together with a thin layer of fresh cream cheese between. Next, butter the top of the brown slice of bread, spread again with cream cheese, and lay a second slice of buttered white bread on top. Repeat until there are 5 layers, having the white last. Now, with a sharp knife, cut crosswise in thin slices. Sometimes the cream cheese filling can be varied with chopped pistachio nuts or olives, or it can be omitted entirely. In any case, it is delicate and appetizing. Cheese croquettes. Cut 1 pound of American cheese into small dice. Have ready a cupful of very hot cream sauce, made by blending a tablespoonful each of flour and butter, and when melted, adding a scant cup of hot milk. Stir until smooth and thickened. Add the cheese to this sauce, also the yolks of 2 eggs diluted with a little cream. Stir the whole and let it remain on the stove a moment until the cheese gets "steady." Season with salt, red and white pepper, and just a grating of nutmeg. Put this mixture on the ice until cold, then form into small croquettes and roll in fine bread or cracker crumbs. Dip in beaten egg, then again roll in the crumbs, drop into boiling fat, and cook to a golden brown. Chicken and pimento sandwiches. Add to finely minced chicken, roasted or boiled, an equal amount of pimentos. Moisten with mayonnaise and spread between wafer-thin slices of white or brown bread. A leaf of lettuce may also be added. Cress sandwiches. Take thin slices of rare roast beef and cut into small pieces. Add an equal quantity of minced watercress dressed with a teaspoonful of grated horseradish, a little salt and paprika to season, and enough softened butter or thick cream to moisten. Blend the ingredients well and spread between thin slices of buttered graham or whole wheat bread. Cut in neat triangles, but do not reject the crust. Banana sandwiches. Remove the skin and fibers from 4 bananas, cut them in quarters, and force through a ricer. Mix with the pulp the juice of half a lemon, a dash of salt and nutmeg, and set it away to become very cold while you prepare the bread. This should be cut in very thin slices, freed from crusts, and trimmed into any preferred shape. Slightly sweeten some thick cream, and add a speck of salt. Spread the bread with a thin layer of the cream, then with the banana pulp put together and wrap each in waxed paper, twist the ends, and keep very cold until serving time. German rye bread sandwiches. Put between buttered slices of rye bread, chopped beef, cheese, or chicken, and cover with finely chopped pickle, dill, or the plain sour pickle. Another variation of the German sandwich is a layer of bologna sausage, then a thin layer of pumpernickel covered with another thin slice of rye bread, cut into strips half an inch wide and the length of the slice. Grilled sardines on toast. Drain the sardines and cook in a buttered frying pan or chafing dish until heated, turning frequently. Place on oblong pieces of hot buttered toast and serve. Ham sandwiches. Chop 2 cups of ham, using a little fat with the lean. Mix 1 tablespoon of flour with enough cold water to make smooth. Add 1/2 cup of boiling water and cook 5 minutes. Then add the ham and 1 teaspoon of dry mustard. Mix well and press into a bowl or jar. Japanese sandwiches. These are made with any kind of leftover fish, baked, broiled, or boiled. Pick out every bit of skin and bone and flake in small pieces. Put into a saucepan with just a little milk or cream to moisten. Add a little butter and a dusting of salt and pepper. Work to a paste while heating, then cool and spread on thin slices of buttered bread. Kedgeree. For this, take equal quantities of boiled fish and boiled rice. For a cupful each, use 2 hard-boiled eggs, a teaspoonful curry powder, 2 tablespoonfuls butter, a 1/2 tablespoonful cream, and salt, white pepper, and cayenne to season. Take all the skin and bone from the fish and put in a saucepan with the butter. Add the rice and whites of the boiled eggs cut fine, the cream, curry powder, and cayenne. Toss over the fire until very hot, then take up and pile on a hot dish. Rub the yolks of the boiled eggs through a sieve on top of the curry and serve. Sandwich fillings. Other timely and appetizing fillings are green pepper and cucumber, chopped fine and squeezed dry, then seasoned with mayonnaise; any of the potted and deviled meats, seasoned with chopped parsley or cress, with a teaspoonful creamed butter to make it spread; cheese and chopped spinach, moistened with lemon juice and mayonnaise; veal chopped fine with celery or cress and mayonnaise; camembert cheese, heated slightly, just enough to spread; a Boston rarebit made with cream and egg, leftover scrambled eggs and cress; roast chicken and chopped dill pickles; cheese and chopped dates or figs; orange marmalade; and sardines pounded to a paste with a few drops of lemon juice added. Sandwiches from cold mutton. Chop very fine, and to each pint add a tablespoonful of capers, a teaspoonful each chopped mint and salt, a dash of pepper, and a teaspoonful lemon juice. Spread thickly on buttered slices of whole wheat bread, cover with other slices of buttered bread, and cut in triangles. Tongue canapés. Cut bread into rounds, toast delicately, spread with potted tongue. In the center put a stuffed olive, and surround with a row of chopped beet and another of chopped white of egg. Corn toast. Toast some slices of stale bread and butter, then pour over some canned corn, prepared as for the table, sprinkling a little pepper over it, if you have not already done so. Do not prepare so long before serving as to soak the bread too much. Peas are also good, used the same way. Tongue toast. Mince boiled smoked tongue very fine, heat cream to the boiling point, and make thick with the tongue. Season to taste with pepper, nutmeg, parsley, or chopped green peppers, and when hot stir in a beaten egg and remove from the fire at once. Have ready as many slices as are required, spread with the cream tongue, and serve at once. If you have no cream, make a cream sauce, using a tablespoonful each of butter and flour and a cup of milk. Luncheon surprise. Line buttered muffin cups with hot boiled rice about 1/2 inch thick. Fill the centers with minced cooked chicken seasoned with salt and pepper and a little broth or gravy. Cover the tops with rice and bake in a moderate oven for 15 minutes. Unmold on a warm platter and serve with a cream sauce seasoned with celery salt. If liked, 2 or 3 oysters may be added to the filling in each cup. Sardine rarebit. 1 level tablespoon butter, 1/4 level teaspoon salt, 1/4 level teaspoon paprika, 1 level teaspoon mustard, 1 cup thin cream or milk, 1 cup grated cheese, 1/4 pound canned sardines, boned and minced, 2 eggs, toast or crackers. Melt the butter, add the salt, paprika, mustard, cream, and cheese, and cook over hot water. stirring until the cheese is melted. Then add the sardines and eggs slightly beaten. When thick and smooth, serve on toast or crackers. Banana Croquettes. Remove skins and scrape bananas. Sprinkle with powdered sugar and moisten with lemon juice. Let stand 20 minutes, cut in halves crosswise. Dip in egg, then in fine cracker crumbs, and fry in deep fat. When done, drain on brown paper. Serve with lemon sauce. Bacon and green peppers. Select firm green peppers, cut into rings, removing all the seeds. Soak for 20 minutes in salted ice water. Drain and dry and fry in the pan in which the bacon has cooked crisp. Keep the bacon hot meanwhile. When the peppers are tender, heap them up in the center of a small platter and arrange the slices of bacon around them. Cheese ramekins. Use 2 rounding tablespoons of grated cheese, a rounding tablespoon of butter, 1/4 cup of fine breadcrumbs, the same of milk, and a saltspoon each of mustard and salt, the yolk of 1 egg. Cook the crumbs in the milk until soft, add the stiffly beaten white of the egg. Fill china ramekins 2/3 full and bake 5 minutes. Serve immediately. Cheese timbales. Crumble into timbale cups alternate layers of bread and American cheese. Pour over them a mixture of eggs, milk, salt, pepper, and mustard, allowing 1 egg and a tablespoonful of milk to each timbale. Cook in the oven or on top of the stove in a shallow pan of hot water, kept covered. Fried bananas. Peel some bananas and cut in halves crosswise, roll in flour, and fry in deep, hot fat. Set on end and pour a hot lemon sauce around them. Minced cabbage. Wash a cabbage and lay in cold water for half an hour. With a sharp knife, cut it into strips or shreds an inch long, then drop them into iced water. Beat a pint of cream very stiff. Drain the cabbage, sprinkle lightly with salt, and stir it into the whipped cream, turning and tossing until it is thoroughly coated with the white foam. The cabbage should be tender and crisp for this dish. Nut hash. Chop fine cold boiled potatoes and any other vegetables desired that happen to be on hand. Put them into a buttered frying pan and heat quickly and thoroughly, salt to taste. Then, just before serving, stir in lightly a large spoonful of nut meal for each person to be served. Peanut miotos. Dissolve 1 cup of cornstarch in 2 cups of tomato juice. Add 2 cups of peanut butter and 2 teaspoons of salt. Stir for 5 minutes. Then pour into cans and steam for 4 or 5 hours. Remnants of ham with peas. Cut the ham into small cubes, measure and add an equal quantity of peas. In using canned peas, rinse them well with cold water and drain. Mix the peas and ham, and for 1 1/2 cups, add a cup of white sauce seasoned with a teaspoon of lemon juice, a dash each of nutmeg and cayenne, and salt to taste. Mix well and add 1 egg well beaten. Turn into a buttered baking dish. Cover with buttered breadcrumbs and bake in a hot oven until well browned. Scotch snipe. 4 slices bread buttered, 1/2 box sardines, 1/2 pound size, 5 drops of onion juice, 6 drops lemon juice, few grains salt, 2 level teaspoons grated cheese, 1 tablespoon thick cream. Remove the skins and bones from the sardines. Mince fine and add seasonings, cheese, and cream. Mix to a paste, spread on bread, and heat thoroughly in the oven. Squash flower omelet. Put to soak in cold water. Then boil about 15 minutes, strain in a colander and cut up, not too fine. Now a regular omelet is made but fried in a little bit of olive oil instead of butter, and just before it is turned over, the flowers are spread on top. Brown quick and turn out on a hot platter. Vegetable roast. Take cooked beans or peas, pass through a colander to remove the skins, and mix with an equal quantity of finely chopped nut meats. Season to taste. Put 1/2 the mixture into a buttered baking dish. Spread over it a dressing made as follows. Pour boiling water on 4 slices of zwieback. Cover, let stand for a few minutes, then break them up with a fork and pour over 1/2 cup of sweet cream. Season with salt and sage. Cover the dressing with the remainder of the nut mixture. Pour over all 1/2 cup of cream and bake for 1 1/2 hours. Serve in slices with cranberry sauce. Walnut loaf. 1 pint of dry breadcrumbs, 1 1/2 cups of chopped or ground nut meats. Mix well with salt and sifted sage to suit the taste. Add 2 tablespoons of butter, 1 beaten egg, and sufficient boiling water to moisten. Form into a loaf and bake in a granite or earthen dish in a modern hot oven. End of section 7.
Recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, visit LibriVox.org. Section 8.
Game, gravy, and garnishes. Roasted canvas-back duck. Procure a fine canvas-back duck. Pick, singe, draw thoroughly, and wipe. Throw inside a light pinch of salt. Run in the head from the end of the head to the back. Press and place in roasting pan. Sprinkle with salt, put in a brisk oven, and cook for 18 minutes. Arrange on a very hot dish. Untruss. Throw in 2 tablespoons of white broth. Garnish with slices of fried hominy and currant jelly. Redhead and mallard ducks are prepared the same way. Broiled wild duck. Pick, singe, and draw well a pair of wild ducks. Split them down the back without detaching. Place them skin downwards on a dish, season with salt and pepper, and pour over 2 tablespoons of oil. Boil the birds well in this marinade. Place them on a broiler on a brisk fire. Broil for 7 minutes on each side. Place them on a hot dish and cover with maître d'hôtel butter. Garnish with watercress and serve. Roast duck with orange sauce. Scrape a tablespoon each of fat, bacon, and raw onion and fry them together for 5 minutes. Add the juice of an orange and a wine glassful of port wine, the drippings from the duck, and seasoning of salt and pepper. Keep hot without boiling and serve with roast duck. Chicken gravy. Put into a stock pot the bones and trimmings of a fowl or chicken with a small quantity of stock and boil them. Add flour and butter to thicken it, and then place the pot on the side of the stove and let simmer. Stir well, and after the gravy has simmered for some minutes, skim and strain it, and it will be ready to serve. Gravy for wild fowl. Put into a small saucepan a blade of mace, piece of lemon peel, 2 tablespoons each of mushroom catsup, walnut catsup, and strained lemon juice, 2 shallots cut in slices, 2 wine glasses of port wine. Put the pan over the fire and boil the contents. Then strain, add it to the gravy that has come from the wild fowl while roasting. If there is a large quantity of gravy, less wine and catsup will be necessary. Salami of game. Cut cold roast partridges, grouse, or quail into joints and lay aside while preparing the gravy. This is made of the bones, dressing, skin, and general odds and ends after the neatest pieces of the birds have been selected. Put this, the scraps, into a saucepan with 1 small onion minced and a bunch of sweet herbs. Pour in a pint of water and whatever gravy may be left and stew, closely covered, for nearly an hour. A few bits of pork should be added if there's no gravy. Skim and strain, return to the fire, and add the juice of a half of lemon with a pinch of nutmeg. Thicken with browned flour if the stuffing has not thickened it sufficiently. Boil up and pour over the reserved meat, which should be put into another saucepan. Warm until smoking hot, but do not let it boil. Arrange the pieces of bird in heap upon a dish and pour the gravy over them.
Read by Mimi Bradley in Modesto, California, for LibriVox. Fall 2006.
This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to find out how you can volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Alice Atwater. Good Things to Eat as Suggested by Rufus Estes. Section 9. Lenten Dishes. Orange Fool. Take the juice of 6 oranges, 6 eggs well beaten, a pint of cream, 1/4 pound of sugar, little cinnamon and nutmeg. Mix well together. Place over a slow fire and stir until thick, then add a small lump of butter. Plum porridge. Take a gallon of water, 1/2 pound of barley, 1/4 pound of raisins, and 1/4 pound of currants. Boil until half the water is wasted. Sweeten to taste and add 1/2 pint of white wine. Rice soup. Boil 2 quarts of water and a pound of rice, with a little cinnamon, until the rice is tender. Take out the cinnamon and sweeten rice to taste. Grate 1/2 a nutmeg over it and let stand until it is cold. Then beat up the yolks of 3 eggs with 1/2 pint of white wine, mix well, and stir into the rice. Set over a slow fire, stirring constantly to prevent curdling. When it is of a good thickness, it is ready to serve. Rice milk. Boil 1/2 pound of rice in a quart of water with a little cinnamon. Let it boil until the water is wasted, taking great care it does not burn. Then add 3 pints of milk and the yolk of an egg. Beat up and sweeten to taste. Forced meatballs for turtle soup. Cut off a very small part of the veally part of a turtle. Mince it very fine and mix it with a very small quantity of boned anchovy and boiled celery, the yolks of 1 or 2 hard-boiled eggs, and 2 tablespoons of sifted breadcrumbs, with mace, cayenne pepper, and salt to taste, a small quantity of warm butter, and well-beaten egg. Form the paste into balls. Plunge them into a frying pan of boiling butter or fat. Fry them to a good color, and they are ready. They should be added to the soup hot. Truffles for garnish. Choose large, round truffles, wash them thoroughly and peel them, and put the required number into a saucepan. Pour over them enough chicken broth or champagne to nearly cover them. Add an onion stuck with 3 or 4 cloves, a clove of garlic, a bunch of sweet herbs, and a little of the skimmings of the chicken broth or fat. Place the pan on the fire and boil for 15 minutes with the lid on, then remove from the fire and let the truffles cool in their liquor. Remove them, drain, and they are ready for use. Another way to fix them is to boil them 10 minutes and cut them into various shapes. The trimmings from them, as well as the liquor, may be used in making sauce. Fried parsley. Carefully pick the stems from the parsley, dry it on a cloth, put it into a frying basket, then into hot fat. Be careful that the fat is not too hot. Fry for a few minutes. Beef marrow quenelles. Put 1/2 pound beef marrow into a basin with an equal quantity of breadcrumbs. Add 2 tablespoons of flour, salt and pepper to taste. Work it into a smooth paste with the yolks of 6 eggs and the whites of 1. Take it out a little at a time and poach in boiling salted water. Drain, trim, and serve very hot. Calf's liver quenelles. Steep a thick layer of bread in milk until well soaked, Then squeeze and mix with half a pound of finely ground calf's liver, and season with parsley, chives, and lemon peel in small quantities, and all finely ground. Dust in salt and pepper and a tablespoon of flour. Bind the mixture with beaten eggs. Divide the mixture with a tablespoon into small quantities and shape each one like an oval. Plunge the ovals into a saucepan of boiling water and boil for a half an hour. Chop some bacon, place it in a frying pan with a lump of butter, and fry until brown. When the quenelles are cooked, pour the hot bacon and fat over them and serve. Chicken quenelles. Mix together 1 teacupful each of breadcrumbs and finely pounded cooked chicken. Season highly with salt and cayenne, and bind with raw egg yolks. Mold into pieces about the size and shape of an olive, between 2 spoons. Roll in egg and cracker dust and fry them, or poach them in boiling broth or water until they float, and use them as desired. End of section 9.
This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information and to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Good things to eat as suggested by Rufus. Section 10, Miscellaneous. Beauregard eggs. 2 level tablespoons butter, 2 level tablespoons flour, 1/2 level teaspoon salt, 1 cup milk, 4 hard-boiled eggs. Make a white sauce of the butter, flour, salt, and milk, and add the whites of the eggs chopped fine. Cut buttered toast in pointed pieces and arrange on a hot plate to form daisy petals. Cover with the sauce and put the egg yolks through a ricer into the center. Egg and potato scallop. Fill a buttered baking dish with alternate layers of cold boiled potatoes sliced thin, hard-boiled eggs also sliced, and a rich white sauce poured over each layer. Cover the top with buttered crumbs and set in the oven until the crumbs are browned. Eggs scrambled in milk. 1/2 pint of milk, 5 eggs. Heat the milk in a saucepan, and when it is just at the boiling point, stir in the eggs, which should have been beaten enough to mix them thoroughly. Stir steadily until they thicken, add a 1/2 teaspoonful of salt, and serve at once. Egg with white sauce for luncheon. Cut stale bread into 1/4 slices and shape into rounds, then saute in olive oil. Arrange on a hot platter, and on each place a French poached egg. Cover with Marnay sauce. Sprinkle with buttered breadcrumbs, and put in oven just long enough to brown crumbs. For the Marnay sauce, cook 1 1/2 cups of chicken stock with 1 slice of onion, 1 slice carrot, bit of bay leaf, a sprig of parsley, and 6 peppercorns until reduced to 1 cup. Then strain. Melt 1/4 cup of butter, add 1/4 cup flour, and stir until well blended. Then pour on gradually while constantly heating the chicken stock and 3/4 cup scalded milk. Bring to the boiling point and add 1/2 teaspoon salt, 1/8 teaspoon paprika, 2 tablespoons of Parmesan cheese, and 1/2 cup goose or duck liver cut in 1/3 inch cubes. Light omelet. Separate your eggs and beat the yolks until thick and light colored, adding a tablespoonful cold water for each yolk and a seasoning of salt and pepper. Beat the whites until they are dry and will not slip from the dish. Then turn into them the beaten yolks, folding carefully until thoroughly blended. Have the pan hot and butter melted. Turn in the mixture, smothering it over the top. Cover and place on asbestos mat on top of stove until well risen. Then uncover and set in the oven to dry. Try it with a heated silver knife thrust in the middle. When done, cut across the middle, fold and turn out. Dust with sugar, glaze, and serve quickly. Omelet for one. Beat the yolks of 2 eggs until creamy. Add 4 tablespoons of milk and saltspoon of salt. Add the whites beaten stiff and put into a hot pan in which a rounding teaspoon of butter is melted. The mixture should begin to bubble almost at once. Cook 3 or 4 minutes, slipping a knife under now and then to keep the underside from burning. When the top begins to set, fold it over and turn on a hot platter. Scrambled eggs with mushrooms. Pare, wash, and slice half a pound of fresh mushrooms. Put them in a sautoir. Cover, shake the sautoir once in a while, and cook 10 minutes. Break and beat 5 or 6 eggs in a saucepan, adding seasoning of salt, pepper, nutmeg, and 1/2 ounces of butter, cut into bits. Add the mushrooms, set over the fire, stir constantly with a wooden paddle, and when eggs are thick and creamy, turn into a heated dish. Garnish with toasted bread points and serve at once. Scrambled eggs with peppers. Scrambled eggs on toast with chopped sweet green peppers make an excellent breakfast dish. Toast 4 slices of bread, butter, and put where the platter on which they are arranged will keep hot. Put a tablespoonful of butter in a hot frying pan. As soon as it bubbles, turn in 1/2 eggs which have been broken in a bowl, and mix with 1/2 tablespoonfuls of water. As the whites begin to set, whip together quickly with a silver knife. Sprinkle over the top 2 finely cut peppers from which the seeds have been removed. Stir through the eggs, let the whole cook a 1/2 minute, then pour over the slices of toast, garnish with sprigs of parsley, and serve at once. Scotch eggs. Shell 6 hard-boiled eggs and cover with a paste made of 1/3 stale breadcrumbs cooked soft in 1/3 cup milk. Then mix with 1 cup lean boiled ham minced very fine and seasoned with cayenne pepper, 1/2 teaspoon mixed mustard, and 1 raw egg beaten. Roll slightly in fine breadcrumbs and fry in hot deep fat a delicate brown. Bananas with oatmeal. Add a teaspoonful of salt to a quart of rapidly boiling water and sprinkle in 2 cups of rolled oatmeal. Set the saucepan in another dish of boiling water, a double boiler. Cover and cook at least 1 hour. Longer cooking is preferable. Have ready 1/2 a banana for each person to be served. The banana should be peeled and cut in thin slices. Put a spoonful of the hot oatmeal over the bananas in the serving dishes. Pass at the same time sugar and milk or cream. Other cereals may be served with bananas in the same way. Spawn and milk. Have the water boiling fast. Salt to taste. Then, holding a handful of meal high in the left hand, let it sift slowly between the fingers into the bubbling water, stirring all the time with the right hand. Stir until a thin, smooth consistency obtains. Then push back on the fire where it will cook slowly for several hours, stirring occasionally with a pudding stick or wooden spoon. It will thicken as it cooks. Serve in bowls with plenty of good rich milk. Boiled samp. Soak 2 cupfuls overnight in cold water. In the morning wash thoroughly, cover with boiling water, and simmer gently all day. Do not stir, as that tends to make it mushy, but shake the pot frequently. As the water boils away, add more, but not enough to make much liquid. About a half hour before serving, add a cupful rich milk, tablespoon butter, and salt to season. Let this boil up once and serve hot. Molded cereal with banana surprise. Turn any leftover breakfast cereal, while still hot, into cups rinsed in cold water, half filling the cups. When cold, scoop out the centers and fill the open spaces with sliced bananas. Turn from the cups onto a buttered agate pan, fruit downward, and set into a hot oven to become very hot. Remove with a broad-bladed knife to cereal dishes. Serve at once with sugar and cream or milk. Thickened butter. Place in a saucepan the yolks of a couple of eggs. Break them gently with a spoon, adding 4 ounces of butter, melted but not browned. Set the pan over a slow fire, stirring until of the required consistency. Shrimp butter. Pick and shell 1 pound of shrimps. Place them in a mortar and pound. Add 1/2 pound of butter when well mixed. Pass the whole through a fine sieve. The butter is then ready for use. Sardine butter. Remove the skins and bones from 7 or 8 sardines. Put them in a mortar and pound until smooth. Boil 2 large handfuls of parsley until tender. Squeeze it as dry as possible. Remove all stalks and stems and chop it. Put the parsley in the mortar with the fish and 4 ounces of butter, then pound again. When well incorporated, mold the butter into shapes. Keep on ice until ready for serving. Excellent for hot toast. Maître d'hôtel butter. 1/4 pound butter, 2 tablespoons of chopped parsley, salt and pepper, and juice of 2 lemons. Mix thoroughly and keep in a cool place. Cauliflower in mayonnaise. Select some large cold boiled cauliflowers and break into small branches, adding a little salt, pepper, and vinegar to properly season. Heap them on a dish to form a point. Surround with a garnish of cooked carrots, turnips, and green vegetables. Pour some white mayonnaise sauce over all and serve. Sardine cocktail. Drain and skin 1/2 box boneless sardines and separate into small pieces. Add 1/2 cup tomato ketchup, mixed with 2 teaspoons Worcestershire sauce, 1/2 teaspoon Tabasco sauce, the juice of 1 lemon, and salt to taste. Chill thoroughly and serve in scallop shells, placing each shell on a plate of crushed ice. Sauce for various shellfish in the shape of cocktail. For the truffle sauce, melt 3 tablespoons of butter, add 3 tablespoons of flour, and stir until well blended. Then pour on gradually while heating constantly 1 cup milk, 1/2 cup heavy cream. Bring to the boiling point and add 2 chopped truffles, 2 tablespoons Madeira wine, salt, and pepper to taste. Baked milk. Put fresh milk into a stone jar. Cover with white paper and bake in a moderate oven until the milk is thick as cream. This may be taken by the most delicate stomach. Mint vinegar. Fill in a wide-mouthed bottle or a quart fruit jar with fresh mint leaves, well washed and bruised a little. Let the leaves fall in without pressing. Fill the jar with cider vinegar, put on the rubber, and turn the cover tightly. Let stand 3 weeks. Uncover and drain off the vinegar into bottles and keep well corked. Blackberry vinegar. Mash the berries to a pulp in an earthenware or wooden vessel. Add good cider vinegar to cover and stand in sun during the day and in the cellar at night, stirring occasionally. Next morning, strain and add the same amount of fresh berries. Crush and pour the whole, the strained juice, and set in the sun again all day and in the cellar at night. The third day, strain to each quart of the juice 1 pint water and 5 pounds sugar. Heat slowly, and when at boiling point, skim, and after it boils, strain and bottle. Homemade vinegar. For pineapple vinegar, cover the parings and some of the fruit, if you wish, with water. A stone crock or glass jar is the best receptacle for this purpose. Add sugar or syrup according to the condition of the fruit, and set in the sun where it can ferment thoroughly. Skim frequently to remove all impurities, and when as acid as desired, strain and bottle. Gooseberry vinegar is made by crushing gooseberries, not quite ripe, covering with cold water, 3 quarts of water to 2 of fruit, and allowing it to stand for 2 days. Press and strain. Allow a pint of sugar and half a yeast cake to each gallon of the liquid. Set in the sun, and when the fluid has worked clear, strain and leave in a warm place until as sharp as desired. A cloth should be tied over the top of the jar to keep out insects and dust. Samp and beans. Soak a quart of the samp and a scant pint pea beans overnight in cold water, each in a separate vessel. In the morning, put the samp over to cook in a large pot, covering with fresh boiling water. Simmer gently about 2 hours, protecting from scorch by an asbestos mat and a frequent shaking of the pot. As the samp commences to swell and the water dries out, add more. After 2 hours, add the beans that have been soaking, together with a pound of streaked salt pork. Season with salt and pepper and continue the cooking all day, shaking frequently. Just before serving, add butter and more salt if it needs it. Dressing for an Italian ravioli. 9 eggs beaten very light. 1 quart of spinach boiled and drained until dry. Chop very fine. Add salt and pepper to taste. 1 cup grated American cream cheese. Little nutmeg. 1/2 pint breadcrumbs soaked in milk. 2 tablespoonfuls olive oil. 3 tablespoonfuls of cream. Cracker meal enough to thicken. Noodle dough for Italian ravioli. Make noodle crust as you would for noodles. Roll very fine and cover half the crust with ravioli dressing 1/2 inch thick. Turn over the other half to cover. Mark in squares as shown in figure. Cut with a pie cutter after marking. Drop 1 by 1 in salted boiling water. Cook about 20 minutes. Drain and arrange on platter and sprinkle each layer with grated cheese and mushroom sauce. Bologna sausage. Chop fine 1 pound each of beef, pork, veal, and fat bacon. Mix with 3/4 of a pound of fine chopped beef suet and season with sage, sweet herbs, salt, and pepper. Press into large skins thoroughly cleaned and soak in cold salt water for several hours before being used. Fasten tightly on both ends and prick in several places. Place in a deep saucepan, cover with boiling water, simmer gently for an hour, lay on straw to dry, and hang. Lemon jelly. Grate 2 lemons and the juice of 1. The yolks of 3 eggs, 2 cups of sugar, butter the size of an egg. Boil until thick. Margarettes. 1/2 pound of peanuts, 1 pound of dates chopped fine, 1 cup of milk in the dates, and boil. Add peanuts. Make a boiled icing. Take the long branch crackers, spread the filling between crackers, put on the icing, and put in the oven to brown. End of section 10.
This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information, or to find out how you can volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Alice Atwater. Good Things to Eat, as suggested by Rufus Estes. Section 11. Vegetables. Brussels sprouts. Wash well in salted water about 2 pounds of Brussels sprouts and pick them over well. Place them on a fire in a saucepan filled with water, a little salt, and bicarbonate of soda. With the lid off, boil fast till tender, about 20 to 25 minutes. When done, drain them and dry on a cloth. Put in a large saucepan a good-sized lump of butter and a little salt and pepper. Toss the sprouts in this until they become quite hot again, but do not fry them. Serve on a quartered round of buttered toast. Brussels sprouts maître d'hôtel. Boil the sprouts and then place them in a saucepan with a lump of butter and beat them well. Put 1/2 pound of fresh butter in a pan with 2 tablespoons of chopped parsley, the juice of a couple of lemons, a little salt and white pepper, and mix together well with a spatula, and when it boils, stir quickly. Place the sprouts on a dish and turn the sauce over them. Brussels sprouts sautéed. 1 pound of Brussels sprouts should be thoroughly washed and boiled, and then put into a pan over the fire, together with a good-sized lump of butter, a little salt, and toss for 8 minutes. Sprinkle over them a little chopped parsley and serve when done. Baked mushrooms in cups. Peel and cut off the stalks of a dozen or more large fat mushrooms and chop up fine. Put the trimmings in a stewpan with some water or clear gravy and boil well. When nicely flavored, strain the liquor and return it to the stewpan with the mushrooms and a moderate quantity of finely chopped parsley. Season to taste with salt and pepper, and boil gently on the side of the stove for nearly 3/4 of an hour. Beat 4 eggs well in 1/2 teacupful of cream, and strain. When the mushrooms are ready, move the stewpan away from the fire and stir in the beaten eggs. Butter some small cups or molds, fill each with the mixture, and bake in a brisk oven. Prepare some white sauce. When baked, turn the mushrooms out of the molds on a hot dish, pour the sauce around them, and serve. Boiled chestnuts served as vegetables. Peel off the outside skin of the chestnuts and steep them in boiling water until the skin can be easily removed, and throw them into a bowl of cold water. Put 2 ounces of butter into a saucepan with 2 tablespoons of flour, and stir the whole over a fire until well mixed. Then pour in 1/2 pint or more of clear broth and continue stirring over the fire until it boils. Season with salt, throw in the chestnuts, and keep them simmering at the side of the fire until tender. When served in this way, they make a good vegetable for roasted meat or poultry, particularly turkey. Boiled corn. Choose short, thick ears of fresh corn. Remove all the husks except the inner layer. Strip that down far enough to remove the silk and any defective grains, and then replace it, and tie at the upper end of each ear of corn. Have ready a large pot half full of boiling water. Put in the corn and boil steadily for about 20 minutes, if the ears are large, and 15 minutes if they are small. Remove from the boiling water, take off the strings, and serve hot at once. If desirable, the inner husk may be removed before serving, but this must be done very quickly, and the ears covered with a napkin or a clean towel to prevent the heat from escaping. Serve plenty of salt, butter, and pepper with the corn. These may be mixed by heating them together, and served in a gravy bowl. Boiled onions with cream. Peel 12 medium-sized onions, pare the roots without cutting them. Place in a saucepan, cover with salted water, add a bunch of parsley, and boil for 45 minutes. Take them from the saucepan, place them on a dish, covering with 2 gills of cream sauce, mixed with 2 tablespoons of broth, garnish, and serve. Corn fritters. Prepare 4 ears of fresh corn by removing the outer husks and silks. Boil and then drain well. Cut the grains from the cob and place in a bowl, season with salt and pepper, add 1/4 pound of sifted flour, 2 eggs, and a half pint of cold milk. Stir vigorously, but do not beat, with a wooden spoon for 5 minutes, when it will be sufficiently firm. Butter a frying pan, place it on a fire, and with a ladle holding 1 gill put the mixture on the pan in 12 parts, being careful that they do not touch one another, and fry till of a good golden color, cooking for 4 or 5 minutes on each side. Dress them on a folded napkin and serve. Broiled eggplant. Peel an eggplant and cut it into 6 slices each ½ inch thick. Put them into a dish and season with salt and pepper and pour over them 1 tablespoon of sweet oil. Mix well and arrange the slices of the eggplant on a broiler and broil on each side for 5 minutes. Then place on a dish which has been heated and pour over a gill of maître d'hôtel sauce and serve. Fried eggplant. Select a nice large eggplant, peel and remove the seeds, and cut into pieces about 1 1/2 inches long and 3/4 of an inch wide. Put them on a plate, sprinkle well with salt, and leave standing for an hour or so. Then wrap the pieces in a cloth and twist it around so as to squeeze as much juice as possible from them without breaking. Sprinkle over with flour, covering each side well, and place them in a frying basket. Put a large lump of fat in a stewpan, and when it boils put it in the basket. As each plant is nicely browned, take out of the basket, sprinkle with salt, and lay on a sheet of paper in front of a fire so as to drain as free as possible from fat. Serve on a napkin spread over a hot dish. Eggplant fritters. Boil the eggplant in salted water mixed with a little lemon juice. When tender, skin, drain, and mash them. For every pint of pulp, add 1/2 breakfast cup full of flour, 2 well-beaten eggs, and season with salt and pepper to taste. Shape into fritters and fry in boiling fat until brown. Broiled mushrooms on toast. Trim off the stalks of the required quantity of large mushrooms, peel, score them once across the top, place them on a gridiron and grill over a slow fire, turning when done on one side. Trim the crusts off some slices of bread and toast on both sides. Cut rounds out of the toast the same size as the mushrooms, butter them, and place a mushroom on each. Put a lump of butter in each mushroom and sprinkle over with salt and pepper. Place a fancy dish paper on a hot dish and serve the mushrooms on toast with a garnish of fried parsley. Deviled mushrooms. Cut off the stalks even with the head, and peel and trim the mushrooms neatly. Brush them over inside with a paste brush dipped in warm butter, and season with salt and pepper and a small quantity of cayenne pepper. Put them on a gridiron and broil over a clear fire. When cooked, put the mushrooms on a hot dish and serve. Mushrooms in cream. Peel and trim the required quantity of mushrooms. Put some cream in a pan over the fire and season with salt and pepper to taste. Rub the mushrooms in salt and pepper, and as quickly as the cream comes to a boil, put them in and let boil for 4 minutes. Serve hot. Boiled Spanish onions. Boil Spanish onions in salted water 30 minutes. drain, and add butter or drippings, salt and pepper, covering the pan to prevent steam from escaping. Cook slowly for about 3 hours, basting frequently with drippings. Care should be taken that they do not burn. Baked onions. Put 6 large onions into a saucepan of water, or water and milk in equal proportions. Add salt and pepper, and boil until tender. When done so, they can be easily mashed. Work them up with butter to the consistency of paste. Cover with breadcrumbs, and bake in a moderate oven. If preferred, they may be boiled whole, put in a baking dish covered with butter and breadcrumbs, then baked. Fried onions. Peel and slice into even rounds 4 medium-sized onions. Place them first in milk, then in flour. Fry in very hot fat for 8 minutes. Remove them carefully and lay on a cloth to dry. Place a folded napkin on a dish, lay the onions on, and serve very hot. Garnish with fried parsley. Glazed onions. Peel the onions and place in a saucepan with a little warmed butter. Add sugar and salt to taste. Pour over a little stock. Place over a moderate fire and cook slowly till quite tender and the outside brown. Remove and serve on a dish. A little of the liquor, thickened with flour, may be served as a sauce. Fried Spanish onions. Peel and slice 2 pounds of Spanish onions. Place them in a hot frying pan containing 2 heaping tablespoonfuls of butter. Add salt and pepper. Boiled oyster plant. Scrape a bunch of oyster plants, dropping into cold water to which a little vinegar has been added. Cut in small pieces and boil in salted water until tender. Season with butter, pepper, and cream. Cream may be omitted if desired. Broiled potatoes. Peel a half dozen medium-sized cooked potatoes. Halve them and lay upon a dish, seasoning with a pinch of salt, and pour over them 2 tablespoons of butter, and roll them thoroughly in it. Then arrange them on a double broiler, and broil over a moderate fire for 3 minutes on each side. Serve in a folded napkin on a hot dish. Parsnip fritters. Peel and boil some parsnips until tender, then drain thoroughly and mash, mixing in with them 2 beaten eggs, salt to taste, and sufficient flour to bind them stiffly. Divide and mold the mixture into small round cakes with floured hands. Put a large piece of butter into a stewpan, place on the fire, and let it boil. Then put in the cakes, and fry to a nice golden brown color. Take out and drain them, and serve on a napkin spread over a hot dish, with a garnish of fried parsley. Mashed parsnips. Wash and scrape some parsnips, cut in pieces lengthwise. Put them in a saucepan with boiling water, a little salt, and a small lump of drippings. Boil till tender, remove, and place in a colander to drain, and press all the waste out of them. Mash them till quite smooth with a wooden spoon. Put them in a saucepan with a tablespoonful of milk, or a small lump of butter, and a little salt and pepper. Stir over the fire until thoroughly hot again. Turn out onto a dish and serve immediately. Potato balls. Mash thoroughly a pound of boiled potatoes and rub them through a wire sieve. Mix in 1/4 pound of grated ham, a little chopped parsley, and a small onion chopped very fine, together with a small quantity of grated nutmeg and the beaten yolks of 2 eggs. Roll this mixture into balls of equal size, then roll in flour and egg breadcrumbs, and fry in dipping or brown them in the oven, and serve on a hot dish. Potatoes and onions sautéed. Take an equal amount of small new potatoes and onions of equal size. Peel and place in a sauté pan with a good-sized piece of butter, tossing them over the fire for 1/4 hour, being careful not to let them burn. Put in enough water to half cover the vegetables, add a little salt and pepper, place the lid over the pan, and stew gently for half an hour. Then squeeze a little lemon juice in it, and turn on a hot dish, and serve. Potatoes lyonnaise. Cut into round slices 8 boiled potatoes. Lay in a frying pan with 1 ounce and 1/2 of butter, and the round slices of a fried onion, seasoning with a pinch each of salt and pepper. Cook for 6 minutes, or until they become well browned, tossing them all the while. Sprinkle over with a small quantity of chopped parsley and serve. Stewed mushrooms. Peel and remove the stalks from some large mushrooms. Wash and cut them into halves. Put 2 ounces of butter into a small lined saucepan with 2 tablespoons of flour and stir this over the fire. Then mix in by degrees 1 1/2 breakfast cupfuls of milk. While boiling, and after being thickened, put in the mushrooms. Season to taste with salt, pepper, and a small quantity of powdered mace, and stew gently on the side of the fire until tender. When cooked, turn the mushrooms onto a hot dish, garnish with some croutons of bread that have been fried to a nice brown, and serve. Stuffed mushrooms, steamed. Peel 8 large onions and boil for 10 minutes, and salt them slightly. Remove them from the fire, drain quite dry, push about half the insides out. Chop the parts taken out very small, together with a little sausage meat. Add 1 teacupful of breadcrumbs, 1 egg, and salt and pepper to taste. Put this mixture into the cavity in the onions, piling a little on the top and bottom so that none shall be left. Arrange them in a deep pan. Put them in a steamer over a saucepan of water and steam for 1 hour and a half. Put the pan in the oven to brown the tops of the onions, adding 1 breakfast cupful of butter to prevent burning. Arrange them tastefully on a dish and serve hot. Potato croquettes. Take 4 boiled potatoes and add to them half their weight in butter, the same quantity of powdered sugar, salt, grated peel of half a lemon, and 2 well-beaten eggs. Mix thoroughly and roll into cork-shaped pieces and dip into the beaten yolks of eggs, rolling in sifted breadcrumbs. Let stand 1 hour and again dip in egg and roll in crumbs. Fry in boiling lard or butter. Serve with a garnish of parsley. Creamed potatoes. Cut into cubes or dices about half a pound of boiled potatoes and place in a shallow baking pan. Pour over them enough milk or cream to cover them, and put in the oven or on the side of the stove and cook gently until nearly all the milk is absorbed. Add a tablespoonful of butter, a teaspoonful each of fine chopped parsley and salt, and half a saltspoonful of pepper, mixed well together. When they have become thoroughly warmed, turn into a dish and serve immediately. Apples and onions. Select sour apples, pare, core, and thinly slice. Slice about half as many onions, put some bacon fat in the bottom of a frying pan, and when melted, add the apples and onions. Cover the pan and cook until tender, cooking rather slowly. Sprinkle with sugar and serve with roast pork. Bacon and spinach. Line a pudding dish with thin slices of raw bacon. Take boiled spinach, ready for the table, season with butter, salt, and pepper. Take also some boiled carrots, turnips, and onions. Whip up the yolk of an egg with pepper and salt, and stir into the carrots and turnips. Arrange the vegetables alternately in the dish, and partially fill with boiling water. Steam for an hour. Turn out on a flat dish and serve with a rich brown gravy. Boiled celery. Trim off the tops of the celery about 1/3 of their length, and also trim the roots into rounding shape. Save the tops for making cream of celery and for garnishes. Cook the celery in salted water until tender, drain, lay on toast, and pour a cream sauce over. Boston baked beans. Pick over a quart of small pea beans, wash thoroughly, and soak overnight in warm water. In the morning, parboil them until the skins crack open. Pour off the water. Put into the bottom of a glazed earthenware pot, made expressly for the purpose, a pint of hot water in which have been dissolved a half tablespoonful of salt, 2 tablespoons molasses, a half tablespoonful mustard, and a pinch of soda. Pack in the beans until about 1/3 full, then place in it a pound, or less if preferred, of streaked pig pork, the skin of which has been scored. Cover with a layer of beans, letting the rind of the pork just show through. Now add enough more seasoned water to cover the beans, and bake covered in a slow oven all day or night. When done, the beans should be soft, tender, and moist, but brown and whole, and the pork cooked to a jelly. Breaded potato balls. Pare, boil, and mash potatoes, and whip into 3 cups of potato 3 level tablespoons of butter, 2 tablespoons of hot milk, salt and pepper to taste, Also 2 teaspoons of onion juice and 2 level tablespoons of chopped parsley, 1/4 cup of grated mild cheese, and 2 well-beaten eggs. Beat well and set aside to cool. Mold into small balls, roll each in beaten egg, in fine stale breadcrumbs, and then fry in deep, hot fat. Cabbage and cheese. Boil the cabbage in 2 waters, then drain, cool, and chop. Season well with salt and pepper, and spread a layer in a buttered baking dish. Pour over this a white sauce made from a tablespoonful each of flour and butter and a cup of milk. Add 2 or 3 tablespoonfuls of finely broken cheese. Now add another layer of cabbage, then more of the white sauce and cheese, and so on until all the material is used. Sprinkle with fine crumbs. Bake covered about half an hour, then uncover and brown. Cauliflower au gratin. Select a firm, well-shaped cauliflower, and after the preliminary soaking in cold salt water, throw into a kettle of boiling water and cook half an hour until tender. Drain. Pick off the flowers and lay to one side, while you pick the stalks into small pieces. Lay on the bottom of a rather shallow buttered baking dish. Sprinkle with pepper, grated cheese, and cracker crumbs. Dot with pieces of butter. Add a little milk, then a layer of the flowerets, and another sprinkling of milk, cheese, and pepper. Cauliflower fritters. Soak and boil the cauliflower in the usual way. Then separate into flowers. Dip each piece into a thin batter, plunge into boiling fat, and fry a delicate brown. Serve very hot on napkins. If preferred, the pieces may be dipped into a mixture of salt, pepper, vinegar, and oil, then fried. Creamed spaghetti. Have 2 quarts of water boiling in a kettle and 1/3 of a pound of spaghetti. Hold a few pieces of the spaghetti at a time in the water, and as the ends soften, turn them round and round down into the kettle. When all are in the water, put on a cover and cook the spaghetti 20 minutes, then drain. Make a cream sauce with a rounding tablespoon each of flour and butter and 1 cup of cream. Season with 1/2 teaspoon of salt and a few grains of pepper. Stir in the spaghetti cut in inch pieces. Turn onto a dish and sprinkle with finely grated cheese. Fried corn. Cut the corn off the cob, leaving the grains as separate as possible. Fry in just enough butter to keep it from sticking to the pan, stirring very often. When nicely browned, add salt and pepper and a little rich cream. Do not set near the fire after adding the cream. Fried tomatoes. Wipe some smooth, solid tomatoes and slice and fry in a spider with butter or pork fat. Season well with salt and pepper. Glazed carrots with peas. Wash, scrape, and cut 3 medium-sized carrots in 1/4 inch slices, then in cubes or fancy shapes. Drain and put in saucepan with 1/2 cup butter, 1/3 cup sugar, and 1 tablespoon fine chopped fresh mint leaves. Cook slowly until glazed and tender. Drain and rinse 1 can French peas and heat in a freshly boiling water 5 minutes. Again drain and season with butter, salt, and pepper. Mound peas on hot dish and surround with carrots. Glazed sweet potatoes. Put 2 rounding tablespoons of butter and 1 of sugar into a casserole and set on the back of the range to heat slowly. When hot, lay in raw, pared sweet potatoes cut in halves lengthwise. Dust with salt and pepper and put in another layer of seasoned potatoes and enough boiling water to stand 1/2 inch deep in the dish. Put on the close-fitting cover and set in the oven to cook slowly. When the potatoes are tender, serve in the same dish with the sweet sauce that will not be entirely absorbed in the cooking. This way of preparing sweet potatoes pleases the Southern taste, which demands sugar added to the naturally sweet vegetable. Glazed sweet potatoes. Sweet potatoes, like squash and peas, lose a little of their sweetness in cooking, and when recooked it is well to add a little sugar. Slice 2 large cooked sweet potatoes and lay in a small baking dish. Sprinkle with a level tablespoon of sugar and a few dashes of salt and pepper. Add also some bits of butter. Pour in 1/2 cup of boiling water, bake half an hour, basting twice with the butter and water. Green melon sauté. There are frequently a few melons left on the vines which will not ripen sufficiently to be palatable uncooked. Cut them in halves, remove the seeds, and then cut in slices 3/4 of an inch thick. Cut each slice in quarters, and again, if the melon is large, pare off the rind, sprinkle them lightly with salt and powdered sugar, cover with fine crumbs, then dip in beaten egg, then in crumbs again, and cook slowly in hot butter, the same as eggplant. Drain and serve hot. When the melons are nearly ripe, they may be sautéed in butter without crumbs. Japanese or Chinese rice. Wash 1 cup of rice, rubbing it through several waters until the water runs clear. Put in porcelain-lined stewpan with a quart of soup stock and bay leaves and boil 20 minutes. The stock must be hot when added to the rice. Shake the kettle in which it is cooking several times during the cooking, and lift occasionally with a fork. Do not stir. Pour off any superfluous stock remaining at the end of 20 minutes, and set on the back of the stove or in the oven, uncovered, to finish swelling and steaming. Just before serving, add 1 cup of hot tomato juice, a 1/4 cup of butter, a tablespoon chopped parsley, a dash of paprika, and 1 tablespoon of grated cheese. Serve with grated cheese. Lima beans with nuts. Soak 1 cup of dry lima beans overnight. In the morning, rip off the skins, rinse, and put into the bean pot with plenty of water and salt to season, rather more than without the nuts. Let cook slowly in the oven and until perfectly tender. Add 1/2 cup of walnut meal, stirring it in well. Let cook a few minutes and serve. Macaroni with apricots. Stew 20 halves of fresh apricots in 1/2 cup of sugar and enough water to make a nice syrup when they are done. Before removing from the fire, add a heaping tablespoonful of brown flour and cook until the syrup is heavy and smooth. Parboil 10 sticks of macaroni, broken in 2-inch pieces, drain, add to 1 pint of scalding hot milk 2 ounces of sugar. Throw in the parboiled macaroni and allow it to simmer until the milk is absorbed. Stir it often. Pour all the juice or sauce from the apricots into the macaroni. Cover the macaroni well, set on the back of the stove for 15 minutes, then take off and allow to cool. When cold, form a pile of macaroni in the center of the dish and cover with apricots, placing them in circles and over it. Macaroni and cheese. Cook macaroni broken up into short lengths in boiling salted water. Boil uncovered for 20 or 30 minutes, then drain. Fill a buttered pudding dish with alternate layers of macaroni and grated cheese, sprinkling pepper, salt, and melted butter over each layer. Have top layer of cheese, moisten with rich milk. Bake in moderate oven until a rich brown. Scrambled cauliflower. Trim off the coarse outer leaves of a cauliflower. After soaking and cooking, drain well and divide into branches. Sprinkle with nutmeg, salt and pepper, and toss into a frying pan with hot butter or olive oil. Macaroni or spaghetti served in Italian style. Break a pound of macaroni or spaghetti into small pieces. Put into boiling salted water and boil about 20 minutes. Then drain and arrange on platter. Sprinkle on each layer grated cheese and mushroom sauce. Serve hot. Mushroom sauce, Italian style, for macaroni, spaghetti, ravioli, and rice. A small piece of butter about the size of an egg. 1 or 2 small onions cut very small. About 2 pounds of beef. Let all brown. Prepare as you would a pot roast. Add Italian dried mushrooms, soaked overnight in hot water, chopped in small pieces. Add about 1/2 can of tomatoes. Let all cook well. Salt and pepper to taste. Add a little flour to thicken. Mold spinach. Remove roots and decayed leaves. Wash in several waters until no grit remains. Boil in water to nearly cover until tender. Drain, rinse in cold water, drain again, chop very fine. Reheat in butter, season with salt and pepper, and pack in small cups. Turn out and garnish with sifted yolk of egg. Nut parsnip stew. Wash, scrape, and slice thin 2 good-sized parsnips. Cook until perfectly tender in 2 quarts of water. When nearly done, add a teaspoon of salt, and when thoroughly done, a teaspoon of flour mixed with a little cold water. Stir well and let boil until the flour is well cooked. Then stir in 1/2 cup of walnut meal. Boil up once and serve immediately. Potatoes a la maître d'hôtel. Slice cold boiled potatoes thin. Melt a rounding tablespoonful of butter in a saucepan. Add a heaping pint bowl of the potatoes, season with salt and pepper, and heat. Now add a teaspoon of lemon juice and the same of finely minced parsley, and serve at once. Potatoes au gratin. Make a white sauce, using 1 tablespoonful of butter, 1 of flour, 1/2 a teaspoonful of salt, 1/4 of a teaspoonful of white pepper, and 1 cupful of milk. Cut cold boiled potatoes into thick slices, or better still, into 1/2-inch cubes. Butter a baking dish, put it in a layer of the sauce, then one of the potatoes, previously lightly seasoning with salt and pepper. Continue until all are in, the proportion of potato being about 2 cupfuls. To 1 cupful of dried and sifted breadcrumbs, add 1 teaspoonful of melted butter, and stir until it is evenly mixed through. Spread this over the contents of the baking dish, and place in a quick oven for 20 minutes, or until nicely browned. For a change, a little onion juice, chopped parsley, or grated cheese may be added to the sauce. Potato creamed. Cut cold boiled potatoes into small dice and cover them in a small saucepan with milk. Let them stand where they will heat slowly and absorb nearly all the milk. When hot, add to 1 pint of potatoes a teaspoon of salt and a dash of white pepper. Sprinkle a little finely chopped parsley over the top as a garnish. Potato mold. Mash some potato smoothly. Add to it some butter and a little milk to make it smooth but not wet. Season with white pepper and salt, and add enough chopped parsley to make it look pretty. Press into greased mold and bake for 1/2 an hour until lightly browned. Dust with crumbs and serve. Potato Parisine. Potato marbles seasoned with minced parsley, butter, and lemon juice are liked by many. Others find that they are not sufficiently seasoned, that is, the seasoning has not penetrated into the potatoes, especially if a large cutter has been used. This method will be found to remedy this fault, giving a seasoning which reaches every portion of the potato. It may not be quite so attractive as the somewhat underdone marbles, but the flavor is finer. Pare the potatoes and steam or boil them until soft, being careful they do not cook too fast. Drain off the water and let them stand uncovered until dry. Then cut in quarters lengthwise, and then in thin slices, letting them drop into a stewpan containing melted butter, salt, and paprika. When all are sliced, cover them and let them heat for a few minutes. Add minced parsley and lemon juice. Shake them about so the seasoning will be well mixed, and serve at once. Potato Puffs No. 1. To 1 cup of mashed potato, add 1 tablespoon of butter, 1 egg, beaten light, 1/2 cup of cream or milk, a little salt. Beat well and fill popover pans half full. Bake until brown in quick oven. Potato Puffs No. 2. Add hot milk to cold mashed potatoes. Beat up thoroughly. Add 1 or 2 well-beaten eggs, leaving out the yolks if preferred whiter. Drop in spoonfuls on a battered tin. Place a piece of butter on the top of each and bake a delicate brown, or put in a pudding dish and butter the top, and bake till of a light brown on top. 15 minutes in a hot oven will be sufficient. Rice a la Georgienne for 5 persons. Wash 1 pound of rice in several changes of cold water until water is clear, and cook until soft, but not soft enough to mash between the fingers. Let it drip, cool, and drip again. Add it to 1/4 pound of melted butter, not browned. Season with salt and pepper. Mix thoroughly. Bake in covered dish for 20 minutes. Rice in tomatoes. Cook some rice in boiling salted water until tender, and season highly with pepper. Cut a small slice from the top of each ripe tomato, take out the seeds, fill with the seasoned rice, put a bit of butter on each, set in the oven, and bake until the tomato is tender. Rice served Italian style with mushroom sauce. Steam or boil 1/2 pound of rice until done, then drain. Remove meat from mushroom sauce. Drop rice into mushroom sauce and cook about 5 minutes. Pour on platter and sprinkle heavy with grated cheese. Scalloped tomatoes. Drain a 1/2 can of tomatoes from some of their liquor and season with salt, pepper, a few drops of onion juice, and 1 teaspoonful of sugar. Cover the bottom of a small buttered baking dish with buttered cracker crumbs. Cover with tomatoes and sprinkle the top thickly with buttered crumbs. Bake in a hot oven. Buttered cracker crumbs are made by simply rolling common crackers with a rolling pin and allowing 1/3 cupful of melted butter to each cupful of crumbs. This recipe takes about 1 1/3 cupfuls of crumbs. Spaghetti all'italienne. Let it cook until the water nearly boils away and it is very soft. The imported spaghetti is so firm that it may be cooked a long time without losing its shape. When the water has boiled out, watch it, and remove the cover so it will dry off. Then draw the mass to one side, and put in a large lump of butter, perhaps a tablespoon, and let it melt. Then stir in until the butter is absorbed, and pour on 1 cup of the strained juice from canned tomatoes. Season with salt and paprika, and let it stew until the spaghetti has absorbed the tomato. The spaghetti, if cooked until soft, will thicken the tomato sufficiently, and it is less work than to make a tomato sauce. Turn out and serve as an entree, or a main dish for luncheon, and pass grated sapsago or other cheese to those who prefer it. When you have any stock like chicken or veal, add that with the tomato, or alone if you prefer, and scant the butter. Stuffed cabbage. Cut the stalk out of 2 or more young cabbages, and fill with a stuffing made from cooked veal, chopped or ground very fine, seasoned well with salt and pepper, and mixed with the beaten yolk of an egg. Tie a strip of cheesecloth round each cabbage, or if small, twine will hold each together. Put into a kettle with boiling water to cover and cook until tender. Drain, unbind, and serve hot. Stuffed eggplant. Wash a large eggplant, cut in halves the long way, and scoop the inside out with the teaspoon, leaving each shell quite empty but unbroken. Cook the inside portion in 1/2 cup of water, then pass through a strainer and mix with 1/2 cup of breadcrumbs, 1 rounding teaspoon of butter, and season with salt and pepper. The shells should lie in salt and water after scraping, and when ready to fill them, wipe them dry and pack the filling. Scatter fine crumbs over the top, dot with butter, and bake 20 minutes. Stuffed potatoes. Select smooth, even-sized potatoes and bake until done. Remove one end, carefully scrape out the center of each, mash, and season with salt and butter. Add a generous portion of nut meat and fill the shells with mixture. Cover with the piece that was cut off, wrap each potato in tissue paper, and serve. Corn stewed with cream. Select 1/2 dozen ears of Indian corn, remove the silks and outer husks, place them in a saucepan and cover with water. Cook, drain, and cut the corn off the cobs with a sharp knife, being very careful that none of the cob adheres to the corn. Place in a stewpan with 1 cup of hot bechamel sauce, 1/2 breakfast cupful of cream, and about 1/4 of an ounce of butter. Season with pepper and salt and a little grated nutmeg. Cook gently on a stove for 5 minutes, place in a hot dish, and serve. End of section 11.
This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. This reading by Kara Schallenberg. Good Things to Eat, as suggested by Rufus. By Rufus Estes. Section 12. Sauces. Cucumber sauce. Pare 2 good-sized cucumbers and cut a generous piece from the stem end. Grate on a coarse grater and drain through cheesecloth for 1/2 hour. Season the pulp with salt, pepper, and vinegar to suit the taste. Serve with broiled, baked, or fried fish. Gherkin sauce. Put a sprig of thyme, a bay leaf, a clove of garlic, 2 finely chopped shallots, and a cayenne pepper and salt into a saucepan, with 1 breakfast cup of vinegar. Place pan on fire, and when contents have boiled for 30 minutes, add a breakfast cup of stock or good broth. Strain it through a fine hair sieve, and stir in 1 1/2 ounces of liquefied butter, mixed with a little flour to thicken it. Place it back in the saucepan, and when it boils, stir in it a teaspoonful or so of parsley, very finely chopped, 2 or 3 ounces of pickle gherkins, and a little salt, if required. Giblet sauce. Put the giblets from any bird in the saucepan with sufficient stock or water to cover them, and boil for 3 hours, adding an onion and a few peppercorns while cooking. Take them out, and when they are quite tender, strain the liquor into another pan, and chop up the gizzards, livers, and other parts into small pieces. Take a little of the thickening left at the bottom of the pan in which a chicken or goose has been braised, and after the fat has been taken off, mix it with the giblet liquor, and boil until dissolved. Strain the sauce, put in the pieces of giblet, and serve hot. Gooseberry sauce. Pick 1 pound of green gooseberries, and put them into a saucepan with sufficient water to keep them from burning. When soft, mash them, grate in a little nutmeg, and sweeten to taste with moist sugar. This sauce may be served with roast pork or goose instead of apple sauce. It may also be served with boiled mackerel. A small piece of butter will make the sauce richer. Half-glaze sauce. Put 1 pint of clear concentrated veal gravy in a saucepan. Mix it with 2 wineglassfuls of Madeira, a bunch of sweet herbs, and set both over the fire until boiling. Mix 2 tablespoonfuls of potato flour to a smooth paste with a little cold water. Then mix it with the broth and stir until thick. Move the pan to the side of the fire, and let the sauce boil gently until reduced to 2/3 of its original quantity. Skim it well, pass it through a silk sieve, and it is ready for use. Ham sauce. After a ham is nearly all used up, pick the small quantity of meat still remaining from the bone, scrape away the uneatable parts, and trim off any rusty bits from the meat. Chop the bone very small, and beat the meat almost to a paste. Put the broken bones and meat together into a saucepan over a slow fire. Pour over them 1/4 pint of broth, and stir about 1/4 of an hour. Add to it a few sweet herbs, a seasoning of pepper, and 1/2 pint of good beef stock. Cover the saucepan, and stir very gently until well flavored with herbs, then strain it. A little of this added to any gravy is an improvement. Horseradish sauce. Place in a basin 1 tablespoonful of moist sugar, 1 tablespoonful of ground mustard, 1 teacupful of grated horseradish, and 1 teaspoonful of turmeric. Season with pepper and salt, and mix the ingredients with a teacupful of vinegar or olive oil. When quite smooth, turn the sauce into a sauceboat, and it is ready to be served. Lemon butter. Cream 4 level tablespoons of butter, and gradually add 1 tablespoon of lemon juice, mixing thoroughly. Lemon sauce for fish. Squeeze and strain the juice of a large lemon into a lined saucepan. Put in with it 1/4 pound butter, and pepper and salt to taste. Beat it over the fire until thick and hot, but do not allow to boil. When done, mix with sauce the beaten yolks of 2 eggs. It is then ready to be served. Lobster butter. Take the head and spawn of some hen lobsters, put them in a mortar and pound. Add an equal quantity of fresh butter, and pound both together, being sure they are thoroughly mixed. Pass this through a fine hair sieve, and the butter is then ready for use. It is very nice for garnishing or for making sandwiches. Maître d'Hotel butter. Cream 1/4 cup of butter. Add 1/2 teaspoon salt, a dash of pepper, and a tablespoon of fine chopped parsley, then, very slowly to avoid curdling, a tablespoon of lemon juice. This sauce is appropriate for beefsteak and boiled fish. Sauce à la Metcalfe. Put 2 or 3 tablespoonfuls of butter in a saucepan, and when it melts add about a tablespoonful of Liebig's extract of beef. Season and gradually stir in about a cupful of cream. After taking off, add a wineglassful of sherry or Madeira. Parsley and lemon sauce. Squeeze the juice from a lemon, remove the pips, and mince fine the pulp and rind. Wash a good handful of parsley, and shake it as dry as possible, and chop it, throwing away the stalks. Put 1 ounce of butter and 1 tablespoonful of flour into a saucepan, and stir over fire until well mixed. Then put in the parsley and minced lemon, and pour in as much clear stock as will be required to make the sauce. Season with a small quantity of pounded mace, and stir the whole over the fire a few minutes. Beat the yolks of 2 eggs with 2 tablespoonfuls of cold stock, and move the sauce to the side of the fire, and when it has cooled a little, stir in the eggs. Stir the sauce for 2 minutes on the side of the fire, and it will be ready for serving. Poivrade sauce. Put in a stewpan 6 scallions, a little thyme, a good bunch of parsley, 2 bay leaves, a dessertspoonful of white pepper, 2 tablespoons of vinegar, and 2 ounces of butter, and let all stew together until nearly all the liquor has evaporated. Add 1 teacupful of stock, 2 teacupfuls of Spanish sauce. Boil this until reduced to 1/2, then serve. Royal sauce. Put 4 ounces of fresh butter and the yolks of 2 fresh eggs into a saucepan, and stir them over the fire until the yolks begin to thicken, but do not allow them to cook hard. Take sauce off the fire and stir in by degrees 2 tablespoonfuls of tarragon vinegar, 2 tablespoons of Indian soy, 1 finely chopped green gherkin, 1 small pinch of cayenne pepper, and a small quantity of salt. When well incorporated, keep sauce in a cold place. When cold, serve with fish. Sauce for fish. Simmer 2 cups of milk with a slice of onion, a slice of carrot cut in bits, a sprig of parsley, and a bit of bay leaf for a few minutes. Strain onto 1/4 cup of butter rubbed smooth with the same flour. Cook 5 minutes, and season with a level teaspoon of salt and a saltspoon of pepper. Sauce mayonnaise. Place in an earthen bowl a couple of fresh egg yolks, and 1/2 teaspoonful of ground English mustard, 1/2 pinch of salt, 1/2 saltspoonful red pepper, and stir well for about 3 minutes without stopping. Then pour in 1 drop at a time 1 1/2 cupfuls of best olive oil, and should it become too thick, add a little at a time some good vinegar, stirring constantly. Sauce tartare. Use 1/2 level teaspoon of salt and mustard, 1 teaspoon of powdered sugar, and a few grains of cayenne beaten vigorously with the yolks of 2 eggs. Add 1/2 cup of olive oil slowly, and dilute as needed with 1 1/2 tablespoon of vinegar. Add 1/4 cup of chopped pickles, capers, and olives mixed. Tartar sauce. Mix 1 tablespoon of vinegar, 1 teaspoon of lemon juice, a saltspoon of salt, a tablespoon of any good catsup, and heat over hot water. Heat 1/3 cup of butter in a small saucepan until it begins to brown, then strain onto the other ingredients and pour over the fish on the platter. Shrimp sauce. Pour 1 pint of poivrade sauce and butter sauce into a saucepan, and boil until somewhat reduced. Thicken the sauce with 2 ounces of lobster butter. Pick 1 1/2 pints of shrimps, put them into the sauce with a small quantity of lemon juice, stir the sauce by the side of the fire for a few minutes, then serve it. Sauce for fried pike. Peel and chop very fine 1 small onion, 1 green pepper, half a peeled clove, and garlic. Season with salt, red pepper, and half a wineglassful of good white wine. Boil about 2 minutes, and add a gill of tomato sauce and a small tomato cut in dice-shaped pieces. Cook about 10 minutes. End of section 12. Read by Kara Schallenberg, www.kray.org, on June 5th, 2006, in Oceanside, California.